welcome back. We are going to make paella today for dinner. So this kind of has a lot of ingredients, so I'm going to go through and show you. Right now I'm just prepping, getting everything prepped. The easiest way to cook anything is to have everything ready and then start cooking, so you're not doing it along the way. It just goes quicker if everything is ready. So for veggies, you can use any kind of veggies that you want. In this, I'm going to do a couple of bell peppers, which I'm going to dice, an onion, which I'm going to dice. The lawnmowers are out there. So bell peppers, onions. I have a can of diced tomatoes. Sometimes I chop up some asparagus to go in there. Today I might throw some broccoli in there today. Instead, I don't have any asparagus. But really any veggies that you like. You can do carrots in there, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, onions, whatever. You don't even have to put any vegetables in there if you don't like them. So this is just what I like doing for ours. And then as far as meat, you can either do some meats, you can do seafood, a combination of the two. Shrimp is good in here. How I always make mine is I use chorizo and this is still kind of frozen, but chorizo and some boneless, skinless chicken thighs that I'm gonna cut up into small bite-sized pieces. And then the chorizo, I'll show you how to cook that, but basically just remove it from the skin and saute it up until it's browned. But another ingredient that you'll need is some chicken stock. And then the key ingredient to paella, besides the rice, which I'll show you in a minute, is saffron. I ordered this from Amazon. It's just a tin of saffron, and it has these like little threads inside, and I'll show you what to do with them. So I use a little bit of saffron, and then I also like a little ground turmeric in mine as well. So those are just some basic ingredients for now. I'm gonna get to dicing up my veggies, and then I'll show you the next step. Everything is prepped, and now first thing that I cook, so I have a paella pan, which is just like a round, shallow pan. You don't have to have a paella pan. You could just use any frying pan, maybe the biggest one that you have. The key though is that you don't want something like deep. The rice and everything is supposed to be spread out and shallow. So a big frying pan works just fine. I have a paella pan. So the first thing that I cook is the chorizo. So these came in links, not pre-ground. So what I do is I just take my knife and the point, stab it, and cut a slit into the skin. And I'm going to peel the skin off, and then I'm just going to cook my chorizo here in the paella pan. I add a little bit of oil to the pan just to help it get going. You don't need a lot though, because chorizo adds a lot of fat, seeps out of it, so you only need a little bit. So I'm going to start cooking that, and then I'll show you what to do next. The chorizo here in the paella pan cooking, getting browned up. And you don't have to cook it all the way through. It'll finish cooking when I put the rice in and the veggies and everything else. So I usually just brown it up, and I get the juice from the chorizo, and I'm going to cook the chicken and the veggies in that juice. So cook it about 75% of the way done. And then once it's done, I'm going to transfer it into a bowl, and I'm going to start chopping up my chicken while that's cooking, and that will go in next. So the chorizo is done. So I'm just going to use a slotted spoon. You don't have to do this, but I want to reserve the juice that the chorizo gave off, all that grease on the bottom, to cook the chicken and veggies in. So I'm just going to scoop the chorizo out like that and drain off the grease as I do it, and put it in a bowl here. And then directly to the pan, I'm going to add the chicken, which I've already cut up into bite-sized pieces, and trim the fat off of the boneless, skinless chicken thighs. If you use chicken breast, you don't have to do that. I just like the flavor of chicken thighs better. I think it's more tender and just tastes better. So yeah, I'm going to finish scooping this into this bowl here. and then I'll add the chicken and I'll show you what that looks like. We removed all the chorizo. Here's my cut up chicken thighs. I'm just gonna add that directly into the pan. Nothing fancy, straight on in, kind of spread it out and kind of coat it in that chorizo juice, grease, like that. And get all the little pieces. Okay. The only thing I add to the chicken is a little bit of salt and pepper. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. Okay. And then also directly to the chicken, I add a little bit of turmeric. So I have this ground turmeric here. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that on directly onto the chicken. And that's it. And now I'm just going to saute this chicken just for a few minutes, kind of more to get it a little bit brown, not cooked. You don't have to cook it all the way through at this stage. I'm just trying to get a little color on the chicken. And then I'm going to add it straight into the bowl with the chorizo. And don't worry if it's not all the way cooked through. That's not a problem because it's going to finish cooking once we add all the other ingredients back into the paella pan, because that takes about 30 minutes to cook, and that's more than enough time to finish cooking the chicken in with the rest of the ingredients. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep cooking this chicken in the pan, and then I'm going to remove it and then just dump in all the veggies, the peppers and the onions, straight into the pan, same way, and just saute them. The chicken's just been cooking for a few minutes. It's got a little bit of color to it. I'm going to remove the chicken now. Same way as I did the chorizo. I have a slotted spoon here, and just to try to preserve the juice from the chorizo and the chicken that's left in the pan in order to cook the vegetables in it. So I'm just going to remove all the chicken here into the same bowl as the chorizo. And then you're just going to dump the veggies straight into the pan. I'm going to cook them for probably about 10 minutes just to get them softened. They don't have to be cooked all the way through. So I had cut up my peppers and my onions earlier, so they're right in here. I'm going to dump them straight in. That spoon, okay. There we go. If your chorizo for some reason didn't give off a lot of juice, or the chicken absorbed too much, you can always add a little bit more oil to the pan. It's not a big deal. So I'm just going to cook these veggies for a little bit till they soften up, and then I'll show you what we add next. Another thing, when I make my batch, I cook a lot because we like leftovers. So I usually use about between 4 and 5 scoops of rice. And if you're doing a 2-to-1 ratio, then you need like 8 to 10 cups of broth with it. So this is like the little cup that comes with my rice cooker that I use. So I usually do like between 4 and 5 scoops. If you're not making enough to feed an entire army, you can cut that in half. You don't, but it's a 2-to-1, liquid to rice. So because the chicken broth that I bought, this is only 6 cups, I'm going to need a little bit more chicken stock to supplement. So I need like 2 to 3 more cups of chicken stock. So I have this chicken bouillon powder that I get. So I'm just going to make a little bit of extra broth in here with some hot water and the bouillon powder to supplement the rest of it. But again, if you're not making it enough to feed like 100 people, then this should be fine. 2-to-1 broth to rice. Another little tip is, so I have my thing here, my little container of saffron. I got this on Amazon. You can probably easily find saffron threads in the grocery store, but so they come in these little threads like that, right? Now, what I like to do is steep the threads, kind of like you're steeping tea in like a little tiny bowl, before adding it to the paella, rather than just taking a pinch of the threads and throwing it into the paella, I like to steep it first. It helps it to release a lot more of its flavor and the pretty yellow color that comes from the saffron. But one thing I do, and it's only because I have this I got in Japan, is I like grind the threads up. So what I do is I take like a good healthy pinch of the saffron into the bowl, and then I just grind it up in here. If you don't have this kind of contraption, you obviously can skip this step and just steep the saffron threads directly in a little bowl like this. But if you have something where you can mash that up into a powder, it just helps the saffron break down a little bit more and infuse more flavor into the paella. So I just grab a good healthy pinch, grind it up, and then I'm going to add hot water into the bowl, and I'll show you that in a minute. It looks like ground up. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of hot water. And you see it has like that beautiful, let's see if I can get it better, this beautiful orange color to it. And then I'm just going to take a spoon here and just give it a stir. And there you go. There is the saffron that we will add to the paella when it's time. I like to steep it for a few minutes before adding it, give it a time to, infuse. So the vegetables have been cooking about 7 minutes, and they're just a little bit soft. Again, they'll finish cooking, so don't stress. I'm going to add a little bit more turmeric to the veggies for color and flavor. Turmeric gives it that beautiful yellow flavor, so I just added a little bit, maybe a teaspoon. I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic to the pan now. If you don't have this or the jarred garlic or whatever, you can just drizzle a little bit of garlic powder on it, or just leave it out altogether. It's really not that big of a deal. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of that in there. And then I'm going to also add at the same time my can of diced tomatoes straight into the pan. And just stir everything together, just to incorporate the tomatoes into the veggies. And now, after that, we are going to add the rice into it. So I use a special paella rice that I get on Amazon. It's called Bomba, B-O-M-B-A. And I just store it in this container. If you don't want to order your paella rice, some grocery stores actually have rice labeled paella rice. You could use any short, like the really short grains. They're the really short fat grains, like sushi rice. Another good one is the rice that you use to make risotto. It's called arborio rice. You can use that as well, but it has to be the short grain rice, not like the long, no jasmine rice or anything like that. So I'm just going to put 5 scoops of rice directly into the pan. 5, just like that. Stir it around, and I'll show you what it looks like. Added the rice to the pan. I just wanted to move the camera a little bit closer. So I'm just going to stir the rice. So in the pan right now are the peppers, the onions, garlic, the can of tomatoes, the can of diced tomatoes, and the rice. That's it. And I'm just stirring it to coat the rice in everything. Just like so. Super simple from here. Now we're just going to dump pretty much the rest of the ingredients in. So there we go. So I've coated the rice in everything. So at this point, what I'm going to do is add the chicken stock, the chicken broth, straight into the pan. Okay, so I'll just dump this in here. I'm going to add the entire container, because again, it's about a 2-to-1 for liquid to rice. So since I added probably a total of like 4 cups of rice, I'm going to need about 8 cups of liquid. So So add that. Okay, that's it. And then I have this extra broth here that I made with the chicken bouillon powder. So I'm going to dump that straight in there. It looks like a lot of liquid ratio right now, but the rice will absorb all that liquid. And now I'm also going to add my, we'll call it the saffron tea that I made, like that. Okay, and I'm going to pour this directly in. And because saffron is very expensive and I don't like to waste any of it, any of that goodness that's at the bottom of the dish, I use like my kettle of hot water and I rinse out the saffron to make sure I get every little last drop in there. You can just use regular water to do that. And then right now, let me give it a little stir. Now I'm gonna add the meat into the pan. So everything now goes in. Okay, so very carefully, I'm gonna dump in the chorizo and the chicken, along with all the juices from the meat. And then I'm just gonna spread that out in the liquid. Okay, and that's it. I do have some broccoli, but I'm gonna add that a little closer to when it's almost cooked, and I'll show you that because broccoli cooks really, the broccoli is the frozen kind and it'll cook really, really fast, and I don't want it to get all mushy. If I add it now, it'll probably be mushy by the end. So what we're gonna do, everything's in the pan, evenly distributed. The meat is evenly distributed. Everything is kind of spread out in the pan. We're gonna bring this up to a boil and then turn it down to like a low, or wherever on your stove you can keep just like a very low simmer. And what I have to do, because this is such a large pan, is I have it straddling two burners. And so I kind of have to play with the heat on both burners. And then what I do is I rotate the pan every few minutes, like 4 minutes. I just constantly am turning the pan like that, so that way it cooks evenly. If you have a smaller frying pan that fits on one burner and it's cooking evenly, you don't have to worry about that. But because my pan is so large, I kind of have to move it around a lot. So, and then it's gonna take about 30 minutes from this stage right here, because the rice takes about 30 minutes to cook. So you don't wanna stir it. From this point on, no stirring. You just let it cook and do its thing, and I will show you what that looks like in a little bit. Paella is starting to boil now. You can see that beautiful orange color. So at this point, it's just has to cook while the as the rice cooks, and it's going to take like 30 minutes. And again, you'll see I just constantly rotate the pan just so everything cooks evenly. But there's pretty much nothing else to do now except keep an eye on it. Sometimes the rice to liquid ratio, you might need to add a little water to it, so just keep an eye on it. If you notice all the liquid is gone in like 15 minutes, then just add a little bit of water or broth, if you have extra broth, to the pan. And you know, you can always at the like 25-minute mark take a fork and just test the rice and see if it's cooked. If it's still a little crunchy, let it cook a little longer and add water or broth as needed. But for now, there's pretty much nothing else to do but just keep an eye on it, that it's not boiling too heavy, too high, and just wait to eat. It's been cooking for about 12, 13, 14 minutes at this point. I just added the broccoli on the top. It was frozen. It was just a bag of the frozen broccoli florets. So I just like spread them out around the top and kind of pat them down into the rice and the liquid just so they can cook in with everything. Again, don't stir. You don't stir paella. You just kind of let it do its thing here. And you can see how much liquid has been absorbed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fork and kind of go in. I'm just going to test the rice and see how crunchy it is, and how much, that'll tell me how much longer that I need to cook it. So this probably has about 10 more minutes at the most to cook, and then I will show you what it looks like. And I'm just, again, rotating my pan so that it cooks evenly. At this point, I don't think I need to add any more liquid, but I'm going to keep an eye on it and make sure, because there's some spots like right here that the rice has obviously absorbed all the liquid, and then there's extra liquid over here. So that's why I keep rotating it and everything to make sure it all cooks evenly. We're about 18 minutes in. It's almost done. And I think I need to add a little bit more liquid, so I just have some hot water here in my kettle. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water, not very much, just a little bit, just to give those kernels of rice that aren't quite all the way cooked some extra liquid to help them. But we are just about there. I would say 5 more minutes and this will be ready. The paella is just about ready. One last thing that is optional if you want to do it, you can create what's called the socorat on the bottom, which is where you turn the heat up a little bit and cook it to get some crispy bits of rice on the bottom. Some people really like that. It's considered like kind of like the top of macaroni and cheese, like the crunchy part, except it's the bottom of the rice. It gets kind of crispy. So you can do that if you want to. And the way that I serve it is in a bowl. I like mine with a lemon wedge. Squeeze the lemon juice over the top. It's amazing. And some avocado on top. And this is paella. So enjoy.